The character development in Thomas and Friends is far more brilliant than I ever remembered as a child. I'm having so much fun watching these for the nostalgia, but I'm also really impressed with how they've developed Thomas's character. The seventh episode, Thomas and the Breakdown Train, was directed by David Mitton, of course, and it aired in 1984. And in this one, honestly, I'm so impressed with it. In the previous episode, Thomas and the Trucks, were introduced to the naughty freight trucks, and we find out that they like to push the engines really far. And in this episode, continuing that narrative, Thomas sees James being pushed and rushed by these trucks, and he's going so fast his wheels are sparking, and he ultimately breaks down and topples off of the tracks. And I loved that. My first thought was, hey, that's great. They're continuing the narrative from the previous episode. And then, and I'm going to spoil what happens here, Thomas pushes in the rescue train and brings everything together to help James to be uprighted and sort out the trucks. And finally, Thomas is called a really useful engine. The Fat Controller, Mr. Topham Hatt, finally says he's a really useful engine. And this comes after the previous episode where Thomas was told that one day you may become a really useful engine. And it's happened. And I'm just, honestly, in my memory, there was never this level of connection between the episodes. And I'm really impressed at how the narrative's carried across. I know it's not the most complicated or intricate thing. I didn't expect it. I didn't remember it. And I'm really impressed with it. And now Thomas has Annie and Clarabelle. I was wondering when those characters would come into it. As I remembered it, they'd always been there. But 6 episodes in, there was no mention of them. So I'm pleased that we now finally have Annie and Clarabelle as characters. We got our introduction to James, who was one of my favourites growing up. My favourite episode was the one where James got stung. I can't remember exactly which episode that is. But I loved that one, and James was always a favourite. So it's great to finally have that character. Honestly, I'm really impressed with it. As with always, seeing the trains moving along is absolutely brilliant. I love model railways. I love how beautiful the shots of these trains are. It's very effectively done. And I have to say, I'm really rather impressed.